Hello YouTube and welcome back. I apologize for my absence the last couple of weeks, but let's just say I've been playing a new game which you are currently seeing here. I got it on Steam. It is called Space Engineers, and I was basically introduced to it by a YouTube video from another YouTuber, and I just kind of thought it was interesting and I figured I would give it a try. And I decided I wanted to build something fun, so it took me 2 weeks to actually complete the project that I was working on. And, well, today you get to see the final result. And yes, I decided to build a 2.5 times scale Saturn V rocket, complete with command module, lunar lander, everything. And for this video, you're actually going to get to see me go through the launch and basically all the general operations of it. Now, this was actually the second attempt launch that I made, so there were some refinements that had definitely been made over the first attempt. But overall, I mean, it wasn't too bad in the long run. And, well, needless to say, as I said previously, this thing has taken 2 weeks for me to build, which is a very extensive amount of time, to be honest. And primarily the reason it took so long was just because I had to work out some kinks in the design, and quite simply building this thing piece by piece by piece was a pain in the ass. On top of the fact that off to the side here, as you're going to be shown in just a second, yeah, right there, I also had to build a big old mining rig because I needed to track down and dig up some uranium so that I could actually have some uranium ingots to power my said Saturn V rocket. So yeah, it took me a good chunk of time to actually get everything done. I mean, even the drilling rig here took me the better part of 2 days to work on, and even so, getting through all the drilling and everything was another day's worth of activity in and of itself. Just making sure that the drill didn't actually jam up or anything. And, of course, just, again, working out technical kinks, making sure the stage separations occurred properly, getting the varying size construction grids of the lander, the command module, and the actual ascent stages to work together were also interesting. And by the way, yes, that is a cockpit on top of the third stage, because the two different size construction grids, you've got 2.5 meter blocks and you've got half-meter blocks, and the two construction grids really don't like talking to each other. So if I want to control the primary ascent stages, I kind of have to have a cockpit on the ascent stages, which means after launch, if I wish to actually move over to the LEM or the command module, I actually have to perform something of an EVA. And, by the way, that was the LEM for you. And you also get to see some of my internal structure as I work my way down from the LEM. I had actually had to go inside to do some controls to just kind of get things set up for the launch. And you can see just the sheer number of hydrogen tanks and thrusters that I've got to be able to power this thing. But overall, the vast majority of this ship is actually basically hollow. I do have, of course, some reverse retro thrusters to try to get some of these units back. Whether or not that works, however, is, well, another matter entirely. So anyway, gonna go ahead and go through the launch, and you'll get to see me just kind of run through everything. And it's taken me, again, just a good chunk of time to get this all set up. And, well, I have to say it was challenging, but it was also fun in its own way, and it was a nice little break from the grind that has been World of Warships. So, be that as it may. Now, it is entirely possible for me to have built this to, well, basically to scale if I had wanted to do small grid construction, but my god, the sheer amount of work that would have taken to set up the small grid honestly would have just been an absolute pain in the ass. I was happier just working with the large grid for the main ascent stage, and well, even that was still the better part of almost a week's worth of work. The LEM and the command module themselves have been an extensive amount of work as well, especially considering that I've also been having to do this around my full-time job as well. So it's been the vast majority of my free time spent in here, up to and including a couple of nights where I've been up until like 6 in the morning. So yeah, I've been putting a lot of time into making sure this has actually been done within the last couple of weeks. And just, yeah. And of course you can see me going through some of the menus, just making sure all of my engines and everything are set up properly. And here comes the first stage separation. In 3, 2, 1, I think. And my timing is a little bit off, I guess. There we go. Now it's separated. And it just kind of goes drifting off and away. Retro rockets were firing. Alright. Separating the connector ring. There it goes. And second stage main engines firing. Geez, that almost looks like the scene from Apollo 13, doesn't it? Just separating first stage. Almost, but not quite. Still kind of fun to watch, though. Of course, because this did take an incredible amount of time overall, I mean, the overall actual launch and mission took a little over an hour for me to do, so I do have this sped up very substantially in quite a number of places, just because otherwise this would be a extremely boring video, and I'm sure some of you will still consider it very boring anyway. But you know what, it is the way the game is. It's primarily focused around the exploration and the creativity more than anything else, and what can I say? I had fun with it. I guess that's the basic point. One of the other things you might notice is that over the course of this entire series of the launch, I'm actually running everything with the inertial dampeners turned off for the entire structure, and that's primarily because everything that I did on the first test launch basically showed that the inertial dampeners were not my friend. Especially when I was trying to do the sequences you're going to be seeing a little bit later on with the marrying of the command module and the LEM. Let's just say that was a very painful experience, to say the least. It made for a very, very, very difficult operation, and having the inertial dampeners turned off just changed everything, because the inertial dampeners, basically what they do is they try to bring your speed to zero, especially when you're in the space environment. The thing about the inertial dampeners is, in atmosphere they're wonderful because they do their best to counteract the effects of gravity and whatnot. They do your best to bring your speed to zero. Well, they do the same in space as well. They try to bring basically all your speed and velocity in any direction down to zero as much as possible. Well, when you're trying to keep up with a unit that is still moving, like you're going to actually see me do when I break away for the LEM docking procedure. There went my escape tower. Well, to not put too fine a point on it, when you're trying to catch up with something that's still moving at 100 meters per second and you have a system that's actively trying to slow you down, well, it doesn't work out so well. In fact, it can actually be very, very annoying and basically counteract any of the efforts you make to actually catch up and line up with the other unit that you're trying to pair up with. And it really made life a lot more interesting than it ever had to be, trying to actually utilize and go through with the inertial dampeners actually activated. Now, one thing I'll also say is that the second test launch didn't exactly go too great either, because while I may have actually remembered to get all my sequencing and everything right, the biggest issue I ran into was that I didn't have a beacon on my lunar module. Or, more for the matter, I had the beacon on my lunar module, I just forgot to turn it on. So, when I separated from the ascent stage and everything on the first attempt for my launch, well, let's just say that I drifted away from my lunar module and I just kind of lost it. So I basically just ended up being a command module floating in space with no lunar module to connect to. I literally lost my lunar module. And I can blame that primarily, again, on the inertial dampeners, which I discovered were my problem as far as drifting and everything in the second launch. But overall, it really made for trying to connect and meet up with my LEM just very, very basically impossible to not put too fine a point on it. Now, of course, the maneuvering thrusters and everything that I'm working with here, I think the speed limit for the game is kind of like 110, 120 meters per second. So when you're trying to get away from something that's already moving at those speeds, it's kind of tricky to say the least. But I do eventually manage to get the cap cone off of the third stage so that I can break away and finally get myself turned around and over to the LEM. And, well, it would help if I actually had remembered to turn on my main engine to actually get a little bit more speed now, wouldn't it? But, yeah, so that's basically all kinds of fun trying to get all of this actually working around. And, well, also I didn't have any of the fancy separation techniques or anything worked out like some people do. Just trying to break away from that there are definitely other blueprints and everything that I could have worked off of, but I wanted to build my own. I wanted to make something that was in fact my own, that wasn't something that I just built from somebody else's blueprint stack. So again, I built this on my own. Everything that you see as far as the Saturn V stages, the LEM, everything, I literally built this all by myself. I did not have any real assistance in regards to just setting up any prior units, anything like that. So I did this all by myself over the last 2 weeks. I think I can actually be rather proud of that. And I can even be proud of the simple fact that I actually got it to work on my own. And, well, I'm not going to deny there was definitely trial and error, as I mentioned. I had the first launch test where I just completely lost my LEM. I had the second attempt where it took me forever trying to actually get it to dock. And even then, I actually found out through the docking process for the second attempt that I actually destroyed my docking clamp on the cab of the, or on the nose of the command module because of issues when launching the retro cone. So there was that to consider as well as far as my failings for the first attempt. Now, I do fire the reverse retros for the third stage before I disconnect the LEM. Unfortunately, just taking time going through the menus and everything and getting the LEM disconnected, I actually end up reversing all of my motion trying to get this stage separated. Now, fortunately, we're still a good ways off from anything that could be considered problematic, but the simple fact being, right now the third stage is plummeting towards the planet. So, yeah, kind of wanted to get that separated so that I could get myself reversed and going in the right direction. Although by this point I had probably been going for about 20 minutes overall, maybe close to half an hour. So actually getting through the launch, it would have taken me a lot of time to get back to the planet side. But anyway, I did actually get everything mated up, paired up, whatever, and I do eventually get myself moving in the right direction and off where I want to be. Ay. Now, the difference between that docking procedure and the docking procedure gone through in the second launch attempt was about 15 minutes of chasing the LEM all over the place before I finally realized I had to turn off my inertial dampeners, because it was just kind of causing me to drift left and right and really not actually maintain any of my speed relative to my LEM. So that was actually a very, very quick docking procedure by comparison to my first attempt. Now, unfortunately, this scenario does not actually have a moon available in close proximity that I really felt like chasing after. So, best thing I can do is one of the nearby asteroids, which is kind of just, I guess I could say, geosynchronous orbit, mass locked, whatever you choose to call it. And I can't exactly say mass lock either. That's actually really dangerous. But anyway, the whole thing here was just going through, and, well, of course, what would a actual Apollo launch be without some sort of a landing in some regard? So I do at least go through everything, getting the LEM actually landed on the surface of this nearby asteroid. And you can see me going through all kinds of systems trying to make sure that everything's up to snuff. And then I remember I don't have a beacon on my command module either. Now granted, the command module is set up with the inertial dampeners on, so it's actually going to stay exactly where it is for the next however long it actually takes me to do this. But, you know, being able to actually find it position-wise without having to actually look at it is a nice little bonus feature, so I didn't want to get too far ahead of myself and get away from it where I just couldn't see it or anything like that. Not that it's a small object, mind you, it's definitely big enough where I could see it from where I'm actually going to land, but, you know, better safe than sorry. Like, I'd rather actually be able to find my command module than lose it like I did the LEM in the first attempt, because trying to get the LEM on its own back to planet side is just something that I really didn't feel like trying to mess with. But I at least do get down to the point where LEM is landed, and we have firm lock on the landing body. And of course, we have to go for a quick EVA, everything after I make sure that everything's actually set up and locked and stable. But hey, look, I'm on the surface of an asteroid. Hoo-yah! I did it! I made it! It's only taken me 2 weeks to get my design correctly built, and I'm sure my second and third stage are kind of, well, at least my second stage is like way out over there somewhere. But you know what? I did it. I'm happy. I can be very happy with my accomplishment here. So, you know what? I think it's time we go home. Ay. Huh. I even have a nice little burst effect as one of my hydrogen tanks explodes to get me away from here. Just kind of like if I were actually breaking away from the real descent stage. So anyway. Of course, the other thing is, the way I had some of my controls set up, my cockpit actually looks forward. So trying to actually maneuver this thing respective to any of the, I guess I could say, the normal operational considerations is kind of tricky, because basically a lot of my controls are flipped like 90 degrees from where my actual viewpoint is. So, especially when I'm actually looking for the direction that I'm trying to go. So, trying to actually get everything lined up and whatnot is really just kind of fun. And at some point I'm going to have to remember that I actually need to turn on the docking block for the LEM so that I can actually get it paired back up with my command module now, won't I? That's what that red bar on the top block means. It's basically telling me that it's turned off. And I'm definitely going to realize it at some point. Probably right around here, because I realized the magnetic lock on the dock should be showing up yellow. And, well, it's not. And, well, it's at this point that I realize, oh, hey, I forgot to turn it back on. That would definitely help, wouldn't it? Okay, there we go. So now we just kind of have to jostle it around a little bit so that it actually decides, hey, we'll pair up. And there we go, relocked. Okay, now we're good to EVA back over the command module and head back home. For the rest of you, those of you who have actually decided to watch this video and kind of enjoy the efforts that I've put in, those of you who came looking for World of Warships content, don't worry, I will be getting back to World of Warships. This was not a permanent jaunt away from the game. I just needed something different. Kind of like the exodus I made over to the Mass Effect. About the same time the NTC was being, or I should say now the, what have they decided to call it? The Research Bureau. That's what it is. Now that I've made the migration over to the Research Bureau, back when it was still being proposed and everything, but yeah, just kind of like with the videos and gameplay that I did for Mass Effect a few months ago, I just needed to get away from World Warships and the grind that is that game right now, and just get onto something different that I felt was a little bit more interesting. And, well, maybe not interesting, but definitely somewhat enjoyable, and in this case a little bit more constructive, I guess I could say. And I wanted to do something different for a little bit, and yeah, I'm going to be back to World of Warships within the next day or two, if not as soon as I'm done actually putting this video together. So there is that to be said at least, but I also wanted to show you basically where I've been and what I've been doing for the last couple of weeks. And no, you're not going to actually see any of the actual construction work, just because it was literally hours upon hours upon hours of placing individual blocks, and in a couple of cases repainting individual blocks and removing individual blocks and testing various separation stages to make sure that they actually worked, and then saying damn it and having to go back and re-engineer the wheel basically. So yeah, it definitely made for a more interesting attempt at basically trying to do anything. But it was fun, and I'm definitely going to probably come back to this game at some point or another, just for grins, because I can. But otherwise, yeah, I think I've had my fun. I think I've had my break from World of Warships, and I'm ready to get back to shooting shit up again. And by the way, before some of you complain that it's taking me so long to actually get everything back home, keep in mind that the fastest speed I can go to actually get through this process, short of actually skipping footage entirely, is I can do about 400% on my actual timescale. So what you're seeing as far as the return trip is 4 times the original travel speed. And it's still taking upwards of, 3-4 minutes to get back? Maybe even longer. So yeah, it was a very time-consuming process overall. again, round trip, this took like the better part of an hour and a half. So it's definitely not a quick gameplay sort of thing. You do have to spend a lot of time going through everything and working with everything, but also to that end, at least it does take a good chunk of time, because otherwise I could probably have just smacked straight into the ground while I was trying to go through everything and actually break free of my command module or my LEM here. And, well, see, here's the other thing. Having hit the speed limit, basically, for the game, the command module is trying to fall at the same rate that I am. So I have to do a little bit of a spin kick thing, sort of, to get the LEM and the command module actually separated from the service module. And, well, yeah, to not put too fine a point on it, just about the same is going to happen once I actually break free of the LEM as well. Fortunately, these armor, and yes, they are armor blocks as far as the game is concerned. They're not too easily destructible, but even so, I was still worried that I was doing substantial amounts of damage to my ship trying to get the LEM and the service module kicked away from me. But everything was, in fact, still functional, and, well, that's what matters, I suppose. But at this point, I am in the command module, purely ballistic. Falling and falling and falling. I have no retro thrusters or anything to really change any direction at all. This is basically as if I were purely on re-entry and had completely forgone any control. Okay, 2,000 meters, parachutes pop, and ouch. Glad I wasn't in the LEM or the service module anymore. But hey, at least I managed to get the service module back completely intact. That's all that really matters, right? That's the only part that really needs to make it back intact, for that matter. Doesn't keep me from hoping to get things back intact otherwise, especially if this had been a actual survival mode where the materials used to make these things was actually an important retention. But I mean, looking at it, the damage isn't too bad. I could definitely have salvaged this if I wanted to, if I were in the survival and realistic materials mode. Pretty much the same for the LEM, although, actually, it looks like it's basically intact. Oh, wait, nope, there's a couple holes right there. Okay, yep, and definitely some of the internals are gone. Okay, so, yeah, there was some damage. But the one thing that I really want to check on, and I mean really want to check on, was whether or not my first stage actually made it back. And wait, I think I see it. I think... Yes! The first stage survived! The first stage was at least brought back to the base. So, again, from a salvage perspective, the first stage is recoverable. At least, mostly recoverable by the looks of it. Is it? Not only is it mostly recoverable, there is... It looks like... okay. Yes! There's no damage on the base! The first stage is entirely recovered! Ladies and gentlemen, I have successfully managed to recover the first stage intact with no problems whatsoever. So, from a survivalist standpoint, I have at least managed to save maybe about half of the materials used to build my ship. So, that's something. Oh my god, yes! I did it! I did it! Yes! It survived! Yes! Ay, ay, ay. Congratulations and thanks to the parachute modules I put in on top. And hang on, there's a crater over there. Wait. Ha! The connector ring made it back too! And just a few hundred meters away from the, just a few hundred meters away from the first stage. Oh my god. It worked. Too bad I don't have beacons on the second or third stage to see if they actually made it back too. That would be awesome, to see if I could recover those at all. But unfortunately, I did forget to put beacons on those, didn't I? I guess that's something I'm going to have to work on and refining later on in my design. But still, I did it! I got the first stage back at least! Yay! Okay, that's just plain awesome. Anyway, that was my launch of the Saturn V in Space Engineers. It's taken me 2 weeks to get this far, folks. 2 long and tedious weeks. And let's just say, at this point, I'm ready to kill something. And, well, just to show that there are still things that you need to be worried about even in this game, especially if you're playing multiplayer, there are cannons to be had. And at this point, I had to deal with so much with my construction work that I just felt like destroying it. Yeah. So satisfying. It took me 2 days to finish you. Damn it. Die. And that third stage, ooh, that was about another day and a half right there. Just die. Just go away. Kill. Die, damn it, die. I want to be away from you so badly. Just die. Fall over, damn it. Fall. Die. Die, damn you, die. I'm starting to sound like the aliens from Independence Day, aren't I? Die! Die! Okay, enough of that. Oh, there it goes, it's starting to fall. Okay. Let me kill the parachute. I want to kill the parachute. It's taking too long. It's keeping it from falling. Kill the parachute! Kill the parachute! Kill it! Ah! Yes! Parachute's dead. Oh yeah, that's satisfying. Okay. Yes, just... such satisfaction. Such enjoyable destruction. Yeah. Watch those hydrogen tanks blow, man. Just... oh, those fireballs. Now, as far as this game does go, the cannon that you're actually seeing here is it's actually a modified weapon. It does not actually exist in the base game client. This is something that was actually designed and created as a mod by another player, and it is... I mean, it can be downloaded through the Steam forums. So, I mean, they're certainly not discouraging it. And it does make for some real nice fun and just absolutely wrecking shit. Oh yeah. But anyway, yeah, it is a... The cannon that I'm using is actually marked as a 900mm cannon. And while it doesn't feel quite as satisfying, I suppose, as firing the 406s of the, say, the USS Missouri or the USS Iowa, after spending 2 weeks in this game just building stuff, it was fun having something nice and big and destructive to just basically tear it all apart. Very, very, very satisfying. Oh, hey. Target shooting reactor. Okay, good. Okay, trying to kill this thing is proving to be a little bit of a problem, and some of the physics aren't rarely working either. And of course I do want to kill the drill rig as well. It's just... it's being a pain. That thing actually was more of a nuisance in some ways than the Saturn V was, just because trying to get the landing docks, or not the landing docks, the drill head built, and trying to get the actual stabilizer gears in place was a pain in the ass, to be honest. While I was trying to build this thing, every time I tried doing anything, made any changes or anything like that, the moment I let go of the landing docks, one of the stabilizer gears was destroyed, and I had to completely re-engineer everything, including all of the grouping and everything, just to get everything back on the same control scheme. So it was a pain in the ass. And let me also tell you that trying to get the drill to work, trying to get the drill to work without jamming was just, that was satisfying. Too bad we don't see effects like this in World of Warships. That would be awesome. But okay, anyway, that aside, even just trying to get the drill to work without jamming in the actual hole that I was drilling and digging. There were a couple of points where I actually had to go down in alongside with the drill and actually drill out some of the points that were catching the bit and preventing it from actually advancing. So it was a real pain in the ass to actually get that thing to work properly, but I did manage it. So I guess there is that to be said. But, oh, so satisfying looking at the wreckage here. Oh, such complete and utter destruction. Oh, yeah. That felt good. And unfortunately, while I only did get one actual aimed shot in at the command module, it does have a nice hole in the bottom. You can kind of see it, sort of, when you're looking at it closely. Yeah, there you go. Right out the back. Just big hole blasted right out the back. Can definitely guarantee that I blew out like 3 or 4 of the hydrogen tanks in there. And of course, the LEM. Actually, the LEM... Holy shit, the LEM's intact. How did that happen? How did the LEM survive? How? Oh, I might have to do something about that later. But, how did that happen? That's bullshit. Okay, anyway. Anyway, this is the fun that I have been having the last couple of weeks. Well, actually just the last few hours with Space Engineers. But I hope you all enjoyed it, and I hope to catch you all in World of Warships soon.